dear brother, Brother Mike Peacemaker. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes. Come on, y'all can do better than that. Brother Mike, your people.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me. So, hey everyone, shalom, hi. And I enjoy living abroad, and I enjoy seeing things from a different perspective. So it's nice to be here in St. Louis, because my perspective of St. Louis is that there are 3 St. Louises. And there's the first St. Louis, as I call St. Louis 1.0, which is up the street from where I live in Strasbourg, France, like an hour away. That's where the original St. Louis is. It's on the border of Switzerland and Germany. And then St. Louis 2.0, I believe, is in Dakar, Senegal, which is where I'll be going in a couple weeks. That's where the slave trade took place in West Africa. And then I believe St. Louis 3.0 is here. And so St. Louis is a saint, someone who loves the Father, who loves the Word. I'm being facetious. And the king was King Louis, and he was a French king. And so wherever he went, he put his mark on border towns. That's where people would come and do trade and commerce and business. So it's just amazing that all 3 St. Louises, which are border towns or frontier towns, that where large trading took place so they can make money, or so that he can make money, and all that money went back to his country. So what I want to talk about today is understanding. See, what I just told you was just knowledge, and we're in a world where knowledge is always given. We get degrees for knowledge, but people have no understanding. You know, people can quote you anything, but there's no understanding. Things are out of context. So my desire today is to provoke you to start thinking about understanding. And not just that, oh, I understand it, because we can read. Most of us are not illiterate in this room. We can read, but we really don't understand. So for example, we live in a world that's a water world. We don't believe that. This is a water world. And there are more species that live in the water than live outside of the water. But we know nothing about that. We have no understanding of that. And we may say, well, I don't deal with it. See, but that's not good enough, because I like giving presentations that are just basic. So you need to find the word in there, the scriptures in there. I don't quote. You need to see the word in it, because people quote too many scriptures and it ruins it for those of us who love the word, but they've ruined it with their religiosity. So I'm speaking a lot about creation, but I'm speaking about it from a perspective of that we're ignorant. For example, many of us have no knowledge of the bodies, the vessels that we live in. We're going to discuss that today, because I want to provoke you, because we will be held accountable for lack of understanding. Now, many of us have degrees or went to school. We have all this knowledge, and there's no kids here. So I call it, most of us will do, when we speak, we would do masturbation of knowledge. We're just vomiting knowledge out on people. And see, and that's not what I'm trying to do today. I will talk about knowledge, but I want you to understand, if you can walk away with understanding and provoke something in you, that you can cry out and say, I need understanding, because understanding is what allows you to execute that knowledge. Not being emotional, not having outbursts, but actually being consistent and meditating on knowledge so you can have understanding. Am I making sense? Does that resonate with everyone? Yes. Okay. So the screen in front of you that you see is water. Okay, it's in the ocean. And then you see the school of fish that's circling. Now, if you know anything about creation or anything about design will always repeat itself. Now, we have no understanding of why that is, but you can see that it is. It looks like a whirl. And another thing, water. Water is something that is scarce, but cannot be manufactured. But yet we know very little about water. We're made up of water. We live in a water world, but we don't have very little understanding of it. So you may say, why are you saying all this? I'll get to it, but I just want to provoke you to say, do you know much about water? Does anyone have any understanding of water? Other than knowledge of H2O, that's just knowledge. Yeah, you see what I mean? But without water, we're dead. This is a water planet. I know we're on dry land, but we were put here for a reason. And we all have our different ways in how we see life or how we want to walk up things that are according to us. But once again, we all will be held accountable for understanding. We're at an era now where understanding will be held accountable. Not my opinion, you'll see it. So here we go. I want to talk about first about understanding with music. And I like talking about music before we go on, but wherever I go on this planet, this water world, I always hear music that comes from America. I always hear it. And with knowledge that I went to school, oh, it's black music. See, that's ignorant. That's a piece of knowledge. But you need to understand, why is it? Because it's not black music that I'm hearing. Does anyone know why it's not black music that I'm hearing? Because again, when you look at pop, rock, country, jazz, disco, blues, hip hop, rap, that is quintessential Americana. It's not black music. You know why it's not black music? Does anyone want to know why? Yeah. The reason why it's not black music is because I'm going to Senegal in 3 weeks, West Africa, and that music's not up on here. They're black. You see, there's content. There's something there. You have that understanding. You just can't say black, or I got boobs so I can manipulate you, or I got a penis so I'm going to manipulate you. You don't do that. You need to understand why you're here and not have this emotional North American or Anglo-Saxon perspective, or think like a Protestant. You don't think you do, but you do think like Protestants or Catholics. You don't realize it, no understanding. But when you have understanding, you say, wait a minute, what's going on? So when I see this music and you see the influence that these people have, look at this. Okay, you see Gentiles, or shall I say, you see white folks here. And when I say white folks, I'm referring to Europeans or Caucasians. And it's not about the skin color, I'm referring to the seed. But for the lack of time, I'm just going to go here. For understanding, do you understand why these people are flipping over, showing her whatever, back in the 30s, 40s, or 50s? This is before immigration. This is before World War II. The era we live in now is World War II era. It's a post-World War II era. So it's a different era. This is pre-World War II. Why are they doing this? Because of this music. Look at these men right here. They look like people from America. I say Hebrew. But why are they doing all this? See, when you have understanding, you stop saying black. You start saying there's something, there's content in them that's allowing them to do something. I see all y'all back there with your smart devices. I got one too. And it's content that you want. You don't care about the hardware. You want the content. Am I making sense? Yes or no? Yes. There you go. Okay. So it's the content. The hardware is great, but it's the content that's in it. So that's what you need to look at. What's so special about this music that goes throughout the world that makes people do everything that's raunchy and nasty? Why did they change the name of jazz from J-A-S-S to J-A-Z-Z? Because they had them branded for the masses. It was initially called jazz, like shake your ass. If you're religious, please leave, because I'm going to use terms, so just get out. Please. It's Americana, that's why I can't take this place. So I'm provoking you to think about understanding. Don't think black, white, boobs, vagina, penises. Think about what's going on. And if you have a relationship with the Most High, not a religious one from North America or from Europe or from Africa, but a relationship, then I encourage you to explore that for understanding and not emotionalism. So again, provoking you, I'll have a lot of concepts, I'll do a lot of testimonials, just to bring this forth about understanding, how people can have all this knowledge, but they still are just clueless. Again, we live in a water world. There are species that we have no idea, but they duplicate the creation, and for some odd reason, we're clueless to it. We don't understand, but yet we know everything about social media, we know everything about fashion, but we know nothing about the water. We know nothing about who we are, and by who we are, I'm referring to who we truly are, and I'll get to that. So in this world of which I call masturbation of knowledge, where people just vomit information on you, it's overwhelming because knowledge is wonderful. I enjoy knowledge. The other day, I had to go, I'm suffering from a cold. I had to get some shots to go to West Africa. And so before I left France, I had to go to the international immunization doctor. So she gave me yellow fever and polio and some other stuff. Okay, so I'm kind of loopy a little bit, right? And so I needed to have a hot toddy. So hot toddy means it's bourbon or some brown liquor in it, okay? So if you're religious, then you're gonna freak out. So Michael drinks, okay, yes. So Ramon and I had to go to, I said, I need to get a hot toddy because that's better. I'd rather have that than NyQuil. NyQuil, but hot toddies are nice with honey, lemon, and then brown liquor. Right. Jameson. Yes, Jameson, right. And so that's good, it helps. So you may see me sip on things or cough because I have a sore throat. So we went to this first place where there were Hebrews there, I believe, or they look Hebrew, and they were just doing the typical back and forth North America ghetto talk. And Ramon and I had to leave. Then we went to another place, and where was the Gentile, a white guy, which I prefer dealing with than drama. And I went in and I said, I have a bad cold. Can you recommend something for a hot toddy? What brown liquor would you recommend? He instantly gave this, boom, all this knowledge. All this knowledge, right, Vermont, all this knowledge just came out of him. And I'm like, wow, so I can make an educated decision of what I needed. But the other dude, it was just completely different. So we live in a culture where knowledge is embraced. And so I'm not saying don't embrace knowledge. I'm saying knowledge without understanding is dangerous. That's what I'm saying. And we live in a place where knowledge is king and queen, but it's completely dangerous because people are using it in the wrong way. And then we're in this era now where we need to have understanding. So before I go any further, I want to introduce myself. Ramon gave a brief overview of my name is Mike. I'd like to thank you once again for having me. I'm originally from the New Jersey Shore, which is on the East Coast of the United States. And I lived all over America. I was born on the East Coast, but I lived out west in California. I've also lived throughout North America, as well as Atlanta. And I traveled and worked all over this nation. And I spent a lot of nights here in St. Louis for work, over in Clayton at the Ritz-Carlton, which they were my customers, and then downtown Hiltons. So I'm familiar with North America as a whole in regards to business and living. And then in 2008, I was allowed to move over to London. And that's where you see things are different. So I started living in London for several months, and then I was transferred to Paris, France. And when I lived in Paris, France, you can really see that there's a difference in culture. I then began to understand that there is something called Anglo-Saxon culture, or Protestant culture, and then a Francophone culture, which is the French-speaking culture. This area that we live in, St. Louis, historically was a Francophone culture, which means it was a French-speaking culture. So that's why a lot of the letters, a lot of the names, and a lot of the streets are in French. So Ramon and I were walking downtown, and there was French on there. He said, "What does this mean?" And I read it to him in French. He said, "Okay, I didn't know what it was." So living in another culture with a different language and a different tribe, because the tribe is a Francophone tribe. This is the Anglo-Saxon tribe. Many of you were Protestants. Was there any Catholics here who were Catholic, growing up Catholic, or Protestant? Protestant. Most were Protestant because that's who conquered this place later. Now, some people may say, well, I didn't go to church. Well, you're from a Protestant culture, because you went to a Protestant school. So going to a non-Protestant school or country, it lets you see things and begin to understand why things are a certain way. It just opens up your eyes. Like, for some reason, they hate the British, but they love jazz. They love jazz, and they embrace jazz. And there are more jazz musicians in French than I've ever seen. And they're all white, no black. So you would think that the Parisians, the French, invented jazz. But if you don't have any understanding, you wouldn't know, and they're not going to tell you. So, but they have the knowledge. So I currently live in a town on the edge of Germany called Strasbourg. That's where I live. And I lived there now for 4 years. I lived in France now for 8 years. And I live up the street. Ramon had the opportunity to visit me. I live up the street from the European Parliament, which is the Roman Empire, basically. That's where the Parliament is, and that's where all the massive governmental buildings are. I'm sharing this with you because you get a different perspective. You have a different level of understanding when you look at history, and then you read things in the scriptures that start to line up. And it's not religious. It's like, oh my gosh, this is history before it happens. So I live in a time, I live in an era where this building right here, okay, with understanding, was designed after Babylon, where it's a circle is half complete. So this was designed in accordance to how Babylon was designed. This is called the European Parliament. There's a bridge that crosses over. This is called the Council of Europe, which was formed after World War II, where all of Europe had their own United Nations. And so this is where they meet. This is important because this is where things are heading. This is where things are. This is the reality of what things are. Because this is Rome. We live in an Anglo-Saxon culture, or we live in a Greco-Roman society. To be more exact, we live in this is Rome. We live in Rome. Does that make sense, anyone?
Yes.
We live in Rome. We go to the DC, everything's like Greco column, so it's Rome. So when you have that understanding, then you won't think this is my country, I gotta fight for it. It's Rome. So what I wanna do now is just talk about water, and I wanna use knowledge. I just wanna, check this out for a second. These are 2 slides. I'd like you to see this. We live in a water world, and they're finding all these things out about this world that we live in. The way they taught the world how it is not how it is. Once again, the way they said how the world is not. And if you're a wannabe scientist like me, you're always investigating, or you want to be archaeologist like me, you're always investigating, and you see new studies that come out, and they'll never tell you the truth because they have the knowledge, but then the Father will give you the understanding to know what's not. Not religion, not a hype, but the understanding. So we live in a water world, but I want you to check this out. This is one of 2 slides I like to play. And there it is. Okay, I'll skip this. I'll pause it for a sec. I'm not good at that. They found a massive underground ocean underneath the Earth's crust. Once again, they found a massive, this is several years, thank you so much.
Excuse me.
One second. Is there tissue on my head?
No?
They found a massive ocean, but not like what you think, under the Earth's crust. Now, if you were me, you were taught that the Earth is round, and then there's crust, and there's molten lava, and all this stuff. So what I'm saying is that have understanding. Don't embrace everything you've learned. Always cross-reference everything. I cross-reference things with science, the scriptures, archaeology, history. I cross-reference with everything, and then I ask the Father to give me insight. And at the end of the broadcast, I'll let you see exactly why I'm saying I ask the Father for insight. Because we do that all the time already. People who are checking their devices, you're constantly being downloaded information. You're always asking for insight. So since we do it already, but these vessels we live in are much more advanced than these devices that we hold on to.
Scientists believe they found evidence of a potential ocean beneath our home planet's crust. The study from researchers at Northwestern University and the University of New Mexico have concluded the body of water rests about 400 miles underneath Earth's crust and is so large it can fill all our oceans 3 times over. Their research, however, indicates the water is not in the typical liquid, ice, or vapor forms, but instead is trapped in mantle rock containing a blue mineral called ringwoodite. Ringwoodite has a structure similar to crystal that acts like a sponge to trap liquid and pull in hydrogen.
Ringwoodite have been proposed as one of the major minerals in the deep earth for the past 50 years, but no one had ever held a piece of ringwoodite in their hand that had come from those depths to be able to prove that that's the case.
Thus far, only one small piece of ringwoodite has been brought to Earth's surface from 400 miles underground by volcanic activity and was found to contain water in solid form. The researchers combined lab experiments on mantle rock under high pressure with seismic data measuring U.S. earthquakes to reach their conclusions. The discovery is an important one, as it will help scientists learn how the Earth formed and its current composition. Northwestern geophysicist Steve Jacobson, who is a co-author of the study, commented, "I think we're finally seeing evidence for a whole Earth water cycle, which may help explain the vast amount of liquid water on the surface of our habitable planet. Scientists have been looking for this missing deep water for decades."
Okay, that's knowledge. I just shared you knowledge. This is knowledge about there's this vast underground ocean that exists. And it's not a theory. It's not a theory. It really is there. So I have another cross-reference to do it. So what does this mean? You may say, well, so what? What does this mean? Well, it means that whatever you've been taught is not true. That's what that means. What it means is that by them saying certain things like this, it's important that we begin, for those that are called, those who want truth, those who cry out for the truth, it's important that we begin to look at different ways in how we process information. So for example, Live Science, this article here reads, I'm still downloading, there, voila. Found hidden ocean locked up deep in Earth's mantle. And so I always like to have multiple cross-references, and then in your own time you can want to look it up yourself, because it allows you to break this cycle in your brain, to break away from social media, because social media is great, but if you understand, it's designed to keep you dumbed down. It's designed to control you. It's designed for that. So it's important that you understand that this is a water world and that you are water. And anyway, I'm showing this article just so you can make reference to it and make mental notes for yourself, because if the planet's oceans are dying, what do you think that means? If we live in a water world and it's urgent, and I know I sound like some green ocean guy or those activists, but there's something that the Gentiles say is right on. So let's go to the next slide. So today's agenda, we'll talk about understanding. I just want to just whet your appetite, get you thinking. All I shared with you was just knowledge, but I want to provoke you to mortgage it all and seek understanding. I want to provoke you so you can mortgage it all and seek understanding. And you may say, what does understanding mean? And that means to perceive, to understand. So things are hidden in plain sight, but some people, they don't perceive it, they don't understand. And so what I want to do today is talk about physical life, things that are hidden in plain view, that'll provoke you, because we're in these vessels that we don't even understand these vessels. To talk about a testimonial from my perspective, from my professional life. I want to talk about seeking understanding for the numeric order of structure or of government, and then I'll do closing. So it's not going to be long, but it will provoke you, because I want you to leave out of here to not be entertained, but that you can go and seek. Spend time, meditate on things of truth, of righteousness, things with integrity, because integrity is important. So I have a picture here of blood, and blood is important because blood is life. See, blood is life, and without that, we don't exist, but no one understands blood. There's no understanding of blood. They can't make blood. I mean, they can siphon and steal it and give it to someone else, but can they produce it? No, they can't. So the very vessels we live in is composed of water and blood, but yet we know nothing about it. Most people are deserts where they will not drink enough water to replace what's in them because they have no understanding. In the West, everything is caffeinated or sweetened on purpose, and so they can make you a desert so that will cause you to have ailments. That's done on purpose. But there are studies that show that. So what I want to do now is provoke you to understand that, because knowledge is just the accumulation of facts and data. that you have learned about or experienced. It's being aware of something and having information. Knowledge is really about facts and ideas that we require through study, research, investigation, observation, or experience. So knowledge is wonderful. However, it's just facts. What do you do with this knowledge? Do you keep running your mouth and start vomiting with knowledge? Or do you learn how to execute that knowledge so that you can live, so you can understand? Wisdom is the ability to discern and to judge which aspects of that knowledge are true, right, lasting, and applicable to your life. It's the ability to apply that knowledge to the greater scheme of life. It's also deeper, knowing the meaning or reason about knowing why something is and what it means to your life. So some people will say insightfulness or judgment or wisdom. So most people have knowledge, but there's no judgment in them. Judgment's not a bad thing. Judgment just means that you know how to execute appropriately. I've worked for many corporations, I've studied many case studies, and the first thing they always say in these case studies is execution has always failed. Whenever there's a merger between two corporations or two organizations, there's always an issue with execution, which means judgment. They don't execute things properly. They lay off too many people, they bring a bad culture in. Something happens where that transition is not as smooth as they had planned. That's all to do with execution, which is, you'd also call it wisdom or discernment or judgment. Does this make sense? Do you understand why this is important? Because wisdom isn't here, just knowledge. Who has a BA in here or BS in here? BS. Who has a Bachelor's of Science or a Bachelor's of Art? Who has a high school education? Who has an AA? Who has a welder's, who has some type of certification? Okay, who has some type of art or some type of art type of degree or expert? Does anyone have any type of thing like that with knowledge based on that? Okay, so this system encourages you to have knowledge, not wisdom. That means lack of understanding. So, for example, 71% of the Earth's surface is water. This is facts. 96% or almost 97% of all the Earth's water is contained within the ocean as salt water. 3.5% is freshwater lakes and frozen water locked up in glaciers and the polar ice caps. So I put this here on purpose so that you'll understand that we're in a water world, but the vast majority of the water is salt water, which we can't drink, and only 3.5% of that water, which is drinkable, is in lakes and frozen water locked up in glaciers and polar ice caps. So, if water is so important, why don't we understand how to make it? Why don't we understand the importance? So since we can't make it, why don't we have the importance to make sure we preserve the water? Because for example, 50 to 75% of the human body is water. So if that understanding was in you, like I drink alcohol, I enjoy beer, wine, I enjoy it. I enjoy those things. But in other cultures, it means that you're a drunkard. I understand that because in this culture, everyone's a drunk. Everyone's either high or sexed out or STD'd out or whatever, because everything's always about going overboard. But I know when I drink something, I need to have something, I need to hydrate. I know when I'm doing sports, I need to hydrate. I know right now I need to hydrate because I understand that I'm 50 to 75% water. And most average adults are 50 to 65%. So when you are not hydrated, you are causing your body to shut down. You're making your body a desert. So when you have sweet drinks or when you have all these other things that you don't replace the water, you are killing yourself. This is not judgment. This is just strictly saying understanding. This is physical life understanding. So this portion up here, dying fish, dying oceans, are we next? There's an article about that. And because if there is over 97% of the world is water, if the fish are dying and the oceans are, that means we are. So with that understanding, break the cycle of your ignorance or your complacency. I'm raising my hand, just so you can be more in tune with what's going on. And ask the Father to give you insight, because people will respond when it happens to them and their own. Then it's urgency. See, lack of planning on their behalf, it's not an emergency for me. I'm like, oh well, it's on you. See, just because something hit you last month, oh my gosh, I gotta do it. That's not my problem, your problem. So this is why, understand, this, guys, I'm being honest. They're not gonna share this. The oceans are dying. That means that everything is dying. So you may say, well, what do I have to do? It's too big for me. No, it's not. We'll talk about that. No, it's not. Okay, overweight men and women have less water as a percentage than their leaner counterparts. So that's why everyone in the West is big, because they're doing it on purpose. They are. Studies show it. And when you're young, your 20s, believe you me, you'll be 40 soon. And you look at, believe you me. But you know, everyone think, everyone, we all think it, but you better get understanding. So lack of understanding is the demise. So I'm only going to show a few links here, because I really want to open up for questions if there is questions, because I really want to provoke you to understand in other areas. So this article right here deals with the dying fish, which I think we're all familiar with it, but I just want to bring it home because I enjoy sushi, I enjoy fish, I enjoy things that are relatively, I like seafood, but I know that there's a great possibility that I'm eating something that's been dead, and then they sell it, because everything's about profit. So I'm mindful of that. I could be eating caca fish, or dead fish, or the same. So this article pretty much just says that as the implosion of the biosphere picks up momentum by the day, the denial of authorities and agencies is beyond rational comprehension. So I'll stop there, but I just want everyone just to understand that the oceans are dying. They've been dying, but now it's accelerated, but no one's talking about it. So what do you do? I have some ideas at the end, as I end this. I'm going to talk about my professional life again with understanding. So you would think that people that are in charge of something, or people that are running something, they would have understanding. So for example, my responsibility in Europe was to design networks for laptops and devices. So my professional job was in Europe, Middle East, Africa. So my role was to move around Europe, Middle East, Africa, and design temporary networks in hotels or conference centers or parking lots or wherever the corporations were going to host their meetings, conference, or events. And I was based in Paris, France, and my headquarters was in London, England. And apparently in 2009, this is when the advent of smart devices started to come. But smart devices primarily was just the iPhone in 2007 and 8. And so by 2009, my company that I was working for at the time were saying that I'm gonna borrow this for a sec, was saying that they would have PCs in the lobby. And so the business travelers would then go down to the lobby, print off their boarding passes, and jump on a plane. So again, in a lot of the hotel lobbies, you will have these lobby PCs, they call them. And for some reason, the revenue went down. The revenue went right down to the roof in 2009. And they said, we don't know what's going on. Our revenue's gone. What should we do? And so they enlisted me, the new guy from North America, who came from North America, who understood the conference business, who understood the Wi-Fi business, who understood that there's a new mobile market coming called smart devices, who understood about laptops and Wi-Fi. They said, why don't you investigate why our London hotels, which is over 100 of them, are not performing? Why are we losing revenue, Mike? So I'm the Yankee. I'm the guy from North America who's now telling the Brits what's going on. And so then I put together this presentation. I explained to them and how there was a device called the iPhone, which they knew about because it came out in 2007 and 8. And I said, this device called the iPhone now, more people are using their Blackberries and stuff. They said, well, that doesn't make sense. So then I explained how there was something called a post-PC era. So then I provided all this data. I provided all these facts. I provided all this information to let them know in 2009 that laptops and desktops, the lobbies, will be surpassed by these smart devices. Now, this is in 2009, so I provided a chart similar to this to let them know by 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. See, these are just projections. Do you see this asterisk here, guys? Those are projections. So the data that I provided them was from 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So this is 2009, so I did it for 7 years in advance. I provided them information from America, but then I provided them information for the UK. Because people always think that their hometowns are better. We don't do that like that in St. Louis. We don't do like that in Strasbourg. You know what I mean? And you're like, shut up. But you can't say that to people because they think their hometown is everything. So you just don't say anything. You just look at them and say, okay. So, of course, they said the same thing. Well, we're not like America. We don't use iPhones. So we don't need that here. And I had data. I showed them data. I gave them data, and data from America and data from the UK to show the projections of these devices that were coming. And the iPad wasn't even out yet. But like, it's difficult to figure out. It's not that difficult. It has nothing to do with age. It has to do with understanding. Because there's a lot of young people who think that this is the future, and this ain't the future. They brag because they know how to do this. Dumb. Yeah, they do. I'm thinking, come on. There's no understanding. There's no understanding. We'll talk about it. There's no understanding. And people are so attached to this, so the next logical step is, we'll talk about it, next logical step. So I told them all this, I put all the data together, I typed up everything. I'm horrible with typos, but I put this big report together, I presented it, I'm very animated, I wasn't sweating. They're all Brits, so you know, they look different, but my accent is a North American corporate accent. And so that's different. So I don't use the proper English terms that they would use. And so I know it's difficult for them. So they listened to the information, the facts. I gave them knowledge. But they rejected it. They rejected my facts. And all they saw was short-sightedness. They just saw the money. They said, well, I don't mind having lobby PC money. I don't mind having laptop money. So they didn't focus on these devices because there was too much money at the time to convert over. Now, this is, again, 2009. Most people didn't have smart devices in North America. Only the geeks had it. Well, the company went bankrupt. 2014. I'm not saying because of that, but I'm just saying when you don't have understanding, you're just living on knowledge and you're just living on fumes. And you think, oh, so what, the oceans are polluted? That has nothing to do with me, it's bigger than me. You're like, wow. If you claim you're from the Most High, if you claim that you're a daughter and son of the Most High, not a religious person, but if you claim that you really are, you know that there's something there. But giving people facts and figures and giving them all the information is not enough. Because people don't have understanding. They don't. They're gonna run their mouths and talk, do whatever they want to do. And so and there's nothing wrong with that. They should be the best ignored information ever. They should just, whatever, you do you know, but don't come over here. Don't. So, we live in a post-PC world. Does everyone understand that? I think that's clear now. But 2009, most people didn't see it. See, I had lack of understanding. So, see, my understanding, my professional life was that I wanted to be a global business leader. See, something was deposited in me to be a global guy. Don't be just from New Jersey or from California or from Miami or from Atlanta or I'm black or I speak English. That's limited. Something in me tells me, don't think like that. Think like me. And that's the voice I hear. I'm like, I don't know what that means. I'm from the earth. I'm not American. My colleagues kept trying to tell me, oh, now that you're over here in Europe, you should be a European. I said, no, I'm not from America. They said, where are you from? And I said, Earth. And they looked at me and they started laughing, but they knew what I was saying was on, because people don't want to pigeonhole you. And so my mind was that I want to be a global business leader. That's all I knew since I was in my early 20s. I want to be a global guy, and I don't want to be locked down in one part of the country. I wish I spoke another language fluently. I speak French, but I'm not comfortable. And so my goal is not just for profit, but something was deposited in me that I can speak and make money, because I got to cover my cost. And so my understanding was that I would use this corporation to do this, and that's not what I was here for. That was only there for an avenue. But my understanding was that if I could show these guys how much information I know, I can share this knowledge, they will acknowledge me and excel me to run their business. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. I have all the credentials. And it's not because of this, the color, it's because the father didn't make it. He didn't make it that way. And I'm saying this for a reason, I'll show it why. See, my desire and the give to seek understanding. Desire and give all to seek understanding. That's what I share with you. Desire to seek understanding. Don't look for knowledge. I'm not saying don't reject knowledge. I'm saying give all for understanding. Give all for understanding. Because what makes this current economy, this current global economy different from all the other economies is content. Because what these organizations want to do is understand people. They want to understand how you operate, how you think, your sexual desires, your eating desires, who you worship. They want to, and the way they do that, they want to understand you. They don't know how to get into your heart, but they know how to look at your fruit. They know how to look at your behavior, how you talk, how you walk, what you things that you do. And that's all from content. Your content. How often do you touch this when you wake up in the morning? When you're taking a crap. I'm saying crap on purpose. I'm saying on purpose. Do you use your phone? How well is your attention span? Because of these devices, most people's attention span is that of a gnat. A gnat. Have you ever noticed why a fly will go to a window and keep hitting it? Because they forget the window's there. Since these devices, people's attention spans, they get sleepy. They always have to touch this. They got to touch it. They have to touch it. Raise your hand if you like me. I have to touch it. So raise your hand. Yeah, okay. So don't be in denial, y'all. Mm-hmm. But if you have that understanding, then you can cry out. So content is what's important, not the actual device, right? Well, we say that, correct? So if you lose this, you got the contact, right? And that's where I'm going to right now. Did you know that this is just a hardware? My earth suit, my body, is just hardware. I didn't design this. I didn't do anything. There are 11 systems that run our bodies. 11. I'm not a doctor, but a little bit I studied. 11. There's the reproduction, the urinary, the nervous, not nervous, whatever. Muscular, respiration, the skeletal, the lymph node, the integumentary, the digestive, the endocrines, and the cardiovascular, the heart. That is what runs these bodies, but it's 11. Okay, think of your body like this. This is the hardware. Okay? Think about the apps you have on your device. Understand what they're doing. Understand every time they want to understand who you are, how they can control you. Come on, it's called marketing. It's not that difficult. I'm not saying something you guys don't know. Who studied marketing? Okay. Who likes to shop? Don't lie. Okay. And men like to shop too, big tickets, relatively speaking. So I'm sharing this with you because when you see your body, think of your body as these devices here. Have understanding. Don't worship your body. Don't think that when you look in the mirror, that's you. That's not you. You know who you are? You're the content. You're the content. See, we're on a planet that we don't understand. It's a water planet. We're in the vessels we don't understand, which is composed of water. There are 11 major organs in the human body. 11. That's the hardware. But what produces the energy? What produces the spark? There's a spark that produces, like it says here, there's an electrical wave that stands for the brain wave, the brain, the body, while the magnetic wave stands for the conscious mind. So something sparks the heart to get the body moving, and something sparks the brain to get the consciousness going. Do you follow what I'm saying? But hear this, there's only 11. There's only 11. When you add in the consciousness, that's 12. That's the content. You are talking to an entity that can be uploaded into another body. Have you guys seen a movie where they upload consciousness into another body? Yeah. Okay, so I have this understanding. This is where we are. Have you seen that? Have you guys seen that movie? Johnny Depp. It's all over. They're showing it all over. It's called AI. Have you heard of this movie called Her, where a guy fell in love with the operating system? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. I want you to just have understanding. You're not your earth suit. Because your earth suit looks young now or look old now, that's not you. Have understanding. We're in a world that we don't understand. We're in vessels we don't understand. These are highly complex vessels, more complex than this. And what keeps this going is electrical magnetic waves, which the same thing, think about it. You power this up, and then right now I'm getting downloads from a Wi-Fi network or from 3G. It's the same thing. I'm speaking to you now, stuff is being downloaded into me. It's not that difficult. So I'm sharing this with you just so the magical thing about who you really are will leave you. The guys who played that music, you guys, that was downloaded as you were playing it. Yeah, you practiced, but something was being downloaded in you. And there's something that was placed in the Hebrew Israelite that's unique. But we took it and started worshiping creation, worship vaginas, worshiping penises, worshiping everything. That's our fault. So when you go around the world, you hear Hebrew Israelite music. A lot of people are fallen. They don't know the Hebrew Israelite. I'm black. Okay, be black. But the Father deposits something in them. And I'm telling you, it's unique. He is energy. He is I hate saying the word spirit because then people start saying so. He's spirit, but he's energy. It's pure energy. It makes, come on, I mean, there's energy speaking to me. I'm not talking to you, Earth, so I'm talking to an intellect. So I'm encouraging you to have understanding, to look beyond the mirror, to not be so dumbed down like a gnat hitting against the wall, to say there's something wrong, because we're at a time now where you will be held accountable. And so I want to just mention this. There are 11 systems, right? There are 11 systems that run this body. But the 12th system is the spirit, is that energy. But they don't talk about it. But they know there's a consciousness there. And that consciousness is energy and it never goes away. So I just want you to see how 12 is so important, how people have this knowledge of 12. Anything to do with government or order or organization always have 12 in it. So calendars have 12 days. The tribes of Israel 12. The Zodiac, or which was really the tribe of Israel, has 12. The largest bank in the world, which is called the Federal Reserve Bank, which one is here in St. Louis, have 12 branches. See, people who know how to set up government, they have the knowledge and they have the understanding on how they need to control. So you have 12 Federal Reserve districts. Are you guys familiar with the Federal Reserve Bank here in St. Louis?
Yeah, downtown.
Yep. That's part of a for-profit organization. That's global, not federal. In the European Union, which is the Roman Empire, there are 12 stars, which stands for government. So I just want you to understand, your body is an organization of 12. 11 physical, 1 is electrical magnet. You are not who you think you are. You're living in a world you don't understand. But ask the Father for understanding, because He can download that information to you as you seek Him with all your heart, with your mind, your soul, just like you download information here on your devices. It's no different. All they do is copy. That's all they do. So I encourage you, if it costs you everything, get understanding. Put all your chips in. Get understanding. Don't get religion. Don't get bored. Don't be like a gnat hitting against a wall. Don't worship. Just get understanding. Ask the Father for insight. So with that said, I thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Thank you for having me. My desire was to provoke you, not to provoke you for understanding, not to provoke you to run away from the truth, but to embrace it and to cry out in integrity and honesty and sincerity based on the word, not based on religion or Constantine's religion or emotionalism. So, is there any comments or questions?